Hello and welcome to another Ask an Introvert. My name is Thea. I'm on a website called Introvertology, and this is Ask an Introvert episode number 2. If you have a question for me, just let me know in the comments and I will try to get to it in another video. Okay? So the first question is from Rachel. How do I allow myself and the other person to give me that moment to think or process their question without causing an awkward silence or long pause? That has always made me feel like I've left a bad impression, and the way I have overcompensated for it feels just as badly. Thank you for your question, Rachel. I think that most introverts can relate to this idea of having awkward pauses because if you read Marty Olson-Laney's book Introvert Advantage, she describes about how our brains are just kind of different from extroverts in the way that we process stimulation, and that includes speech. We're actually better at writing than speaking is a theory. So what I would do is I would basically just give yourself a break, because most people are not very good at multitasking. And what that means is that for most of us, there's a few people who are actual good multitaskers, but they're pretty small percentage. The vast majority of us just aren't very good at multitasking. So what happens when most of us are multitasking is that our brains are actually flipping between two things. So if you're worrying about awkward silences and you're trying to think of an answer, you're not actually doing those two things simultaneously. You're like, oh my god, this is awkward. How am I going to answer again? Oh my god, this is awkward. How am I going to answer again? So the best thing to do is just not worry about the awkward silence and just focus your mental energy on answering the question. Another thing I would suggest is to start practicing speaking off the cuff and start practicing just saying things as soon as the idea pops in your head without it needing to solidify in your head. For instance, doing these videos are a good help for me, because this is largely off the top of my head. I mean, I basically know what I want to say, but I'm just kind of just saying it. I'm not see, now that I'm thinking about this, this is making me nervous. I'm not memorizing what I have to say. So actually this is a great indication right here about what can happen, right? I'm thinking about my feelings versus just actually talking and versus saying what's popping into my head, because I can't multitask. So hopefully that helps. I think it starts with self-compassion, understanding that it's okay to do awkward silences, and that what makes it awkward is actually probably the way you're responding to it. It's not necessarily the way that other people are responding to it. There's a term in psychology called the spotlight effect, which means that we think there's a spotlight on us all the time, and people are super hyper aware about what we're doing and what we're saying, when really it's basically just ourselves who are finely attuned to ourselves. Everybody else is walking around thinking there's a spotlight on them too. So what you think is an awkward silence might not be what someone else is thinking of as an awkward silence. So what I would do is I would just start practicing speaking off the cuff and give yourself a break. Hopefully that helps. Valence asks, do you have anxiety? How do you deal with it? I get it a lot, especially at work. Thank you so much for your question, Valence. Excellent question, because I think most of us, vast majority of us, have experienced anxiety, and it's a little hard to know what other people experience. So thank you for that question. 1 in 4 people have actually experienced an anxiety disorder at some point in their life. So anxiety is really, really common. Anxiety is a part of fear, and fear is something that's deeply embedded in us and pretty much all other creatures, because it keeps us alive. If we didn't have anxiety, if we didn't have fear, then we would just be, walking out into the traffic and getting hit, right? So anxiety, to a point, is very, very useful. Where anxiety isn't helpful is when we're no longer concerned about our physical safety, but we're getting fearful about the random other things in life. So when it comes to me, I get anxious when I have to go to a party or when I have to do public speaking. So the way I handle this is, if the thing I'm anxious about is tied to a bigger goal, then I just push through it. I was doing Toastmasters for a while so I could get over the public speaking anxiety. When it comes to things like parties, I just don't go to them because it's not worth the anxiety. I don't have, a small social circle, and if I need more friends, I would, go to a knitting circle or something like that. So it depends where you're feeling anxious. I don't think you need to battle anxiousness in whatever you're going through. But if this is work, I would actually look about why you're feeling anxious. I would look at the causes. I would maybe go see a therapist. Therapists see, all sorts of people. Anxiety is a big issue. As I said, 1 in 4 people have had an anxiety disorder in their life. So, totally okay for you to see a therapist about this. Some more things that could help you are taking deep breaths. When we're feeling anxious, we can start to do shallow breathing. With me right now, actually just thinking about anxiety is making me a little anxious. So if you just do some not shallow breathing, if you do some deep breathing, so breathe in, breathe out, just doing that a few times can really help. Another thing you might want to do is feel grounded. So what you can do is feel your legs and your feet as part of the wide earth. So feel your feet firmly planted on the ground because, sometimes when we're feeling anxious, we can feel kind of lightheaded and not grounded. So actually feeling yourself part of the wide earth, part of the stable earth, that can really help too. So I hope that answers your question. Anxiety is really normal, and if you need help, if this is getting in the way of you having a happy life, then I totally suggest that you go see a therapist about this. Thank you for your question. Kyle asks, how can introverts be successful at relationships? Should they say right from the start of a date that they're an introvert? A good, successful relationship for an introvert would be the same for an extrovert, and I think successful relationships are dependent upon good communication, about compromise, and about caring for the other person. So I would say that you should not mention that you're an introvert on the first date because labels are tricky and different people have different ideas of what a label means. As you might know, I'm all about trying to get dictionaries to change the definition of introvert from shy because it's not correct. But what if they saw that definition and they think that an introvert is shy? So I think the first date should really be about you finding out whether you can connect with the other person on a emotional and romantic level versus worrying about the details quite yet. So I would say just have fun in the first date. Just get to know them, have a nice dinner or whatever, and not worry about labels. Labels can come another time. And then, yeah, that's it. I hope that helps. Laura asks, eye contact. I watch people's faces when they talk. Sometimes it's intense. How does that make you feel? Thank you for your question, Laura. Intense eye contact probably will make me feel a little self-conscious, but I would say it's not actually a big deal. It's not something that leaves a permanent mark on my mind. So if you do intense eye contact, I would say it's not that big of a deal. The other person, if it makes them uncomfortable, they can look away. Once you start sensing the other person feeling a little uncomfortable, then you can start doing other things. You can look away. Perhaps you can come up with some sort of system like, you count to 4 and then you look away, something like that. But I would say it's not a big deal. I know someone, we both know of someone actually, because we went to college together, who doesn't do eye contact with most people. And if you don't know who that person is, that probably is an indication that eye contact isn't that memorable. So I would just not worry about it too much. I would think it would make me a little uncomfortable. Any kind of intensity makes me a little uncomfortable most of the time, but I don't think it's a big deal, and I don't think that would affect a relationship that I have with someone. Thank you to those of you who have asked me some questions. If you're watching this and have a question of your own, please ask it in the comment section and maybe I'll answer it. So I hope that this was helpful, and I wish you all a good and happy, nice, introverted day. Bye.